Afghanistan, a landlocked nation in Central Asia, has been a coveted prize for empires throughout history. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Vision Vibes, and today we're diving into the fascinating world of why superpowers wanted Afghanistan. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, you're in the right place to learn something new and exciting. Its strategic location, at the crossroads of ancient trade routes, has made it a gateway between East and West. The ancient Silk Road connecting China to the Mediterranean passed through Afghanistan, bringing wealth and cultural exchange. From Alexander the Great to the Mughal Empire, Afghanistan has witnessed the rise and fall of numerous empires. The Hindu Kush mountain range, which dominates the country's landscape, has served as both a natural barrier and a corridor for invaders and traders alike. These mountains harbor vast mineral wealth, including copper, iron ore, and lithium, estimated to be worth trillions of dollars. This untapped potential has further fueled the interest of global powers seeking to secure access to these valuable resources. However, Afghanistan's geographic location and natural resources have come at a cost. Its strategic importance has made it a pawn in the games of larger powers, leading to centuries of conflict and instability. Understanding Afghanistan's strategic significance is crucial to comprehending the complexities of the ongoing conflicts and the challenges in achieving lasting peace in the region. Alexander the Great's campaign in the 4th century BCE marked one of the earliest significant invasions. His conquest led to the establishment of the Greco-Bactrian kingdom, blending Greek and local cultures. In the 7th century, the Islamic caliphates expanded into the region, spreading Islam and integrating Afghanistan into the Islamic world. The 13th century saw the Mongol Empire under Genghis Khan sweep through, leaving a lasting impact on the region. The Mughal Empire in the 16th century further solidified Afghanistan's role as a cultural and economic hub. The 19th century brought the Great Game, a geopolitical struggle between the British and Russian empires, vying for control over Afghanistan. More recently, the Soviet invasion in 1979 and subsequent conflicts have continued to shape Afghanistan's modern history. Each of these events underscores Afghanistan's enduring significance as a crossroads of empires. The 19th century marked the beginning of the Great Game, a strategic rivalry between the British and Russian empires for dominance in Central Asia. Afghanistan, positioned between British India and the expanding Russian Empire, became a focal point of this rivalry. The British aimed to protect their colonial interests in India by creating a buffer zone in Afghanistan. They feared Russian expansion southward would threaten their control over India. Conversely, the Russians sought to expand their empire southward to gain access to warm water ports in the Indian Ocean. This would not only enhance their trade routes, but also increase their geopolitical influence. The British launched 3 Anglo-Afghan wars to establish a buffer state between British India and Russian influence. The Great Game was characterized by espionage, intrigue, and proxy wars, with both sides supporting different Afghan factions. This rivalry destabilized Afghanistan, fueling internal conflicts and undermining the country's sovereignty. The legacy of the Great Game continues to cast a shadow over Afghanistan's present. The echoes of this historical rivalry can be seen in the current struggle for control and stability in Afghanistan. The Cold War era witnessed a renewed interest in Afghanistan, this time between the United States and the Soviet Union. As the Soviet Union expanded its influence in Central Asia, Afghanistan, with its shared border, became strategically important. The United States, wary of Soviet expansionism, saw Afghanistan as a potential domino in the Cold War struggle. In the 1950s and 60s, Afghanistan received aid from both the United States and the Soviet Union, each seeking to gain influence in the country. The Soviets invested heavily in infrastructure projects, including roads, dams, and military bases, aiming to solidify their presence and influence. Soviet advisors worked closely with Afghan officials, providing military and technical assistance to strengthen the Afghan government. However, the fragile peace in Afghanistan was shattered in 1978 when a communist coup d'état overthrew the Afghan government, leading to increased instability. In 1979, fearing the loss of their influence and the spread of instability, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, marking the beginning of a decade-long conflict. The Soviet withdrawal in 1989 left Afghanistan in ruins, paving the way for a brutal civil war and the emergence of the Taliban regime. Following the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks on the United States, Afghanistan once again became the center of global attention. The attacks, orchestrated by Osama bin Laden's al-Qaeda terrorist group operating from within Afghanistan under the protection of the Taliban regime, led to the US-led invasion of Afghanistan in October 2001. The US-led invasion quickly toppled the Taliban regime and drove al-Qaeda underground. Key military actions included Operation Anaconda in 2002, aimed at destroying al-Qaeda and Taliban forces in eastern Afghanistan. Politically, the US supported the establishment of a new Afghan government, leading to the election of Hamid Karzai as president in 2004. Despite efforts, Afghanistan continued to face challenges, including a resilient Taliban insurgency, widespread corruption, and a thriving opium trade. The war in Afghanistan became the longest war in US history, spanning 2 decades and costing the lives of thousands of US and allied soldiers, as well as countless Afghan civilians. Despite these sacrifices, the war ultimately failed to achieve its objectives, with the Taliban regaining control of Afghanistan in 2021, following the withdrawal of US and NATO forces. The rapid collapse of the Afghan government and security forces following the US withdrawal raised questions about the sustainability of the US-led nation-building efforts. In recent years, China has emerged as a major player in Afghanistan, seeking to expand its economic and geopolitical influence in the region. China's Belt and Road Initiative, a massive infrastructure development project aimed at connecting Asia, Europe, and Africa, has identified Afghanistan as a crucial link in this ambitious plan. China sees Afghanistan's strategic location as a potential transit route for its goods and energy resources, connecting it to markets in Central Asia, the Middle East, and beyond. China has been actively engaging with the Taliban since their return to power in 2021, seeking to secure its interests in Afghanistan. Beijing has expressed willingness to invest in infrastructure projects, including roads, railways, and energy pipelines, that would facilitate trade and connectivity between China and Afghanistan. These investments, if realized, could potentially boost Afghanistan's war-torn economy and provide China with a strategic foothold in the region. However, China's ambitions in Afghanistan face significant challenges, including the country's volatile security situation, widespread corruption, and lack of infrastructure. The complex dynamics between regional players will continue to shape Afghanistan's future and influence the success of China's BRI ambitions in the country. If successful, China's Belt and Road Initiative could transform Afghanistan's infrastructure, paving the way for economic growth and regional integration. Beneath the war-torn landscape of Afghanistan lies a potential treasure trove of natural resources, estimated to be worth trillions of dollars. These untapped resources, including copper, iron ore, lithium, natural gas, and oil, have long been recognized as a potential source of wealth for Afghanistan. The discovery of vast lithium deposits in Afghanistan, estimated to be among the largest in the world, has generated significant interest in recent years. Lithium, a crucial component in batteries used in electric vehicles and other electronic devices, is in high demand globally as the world transitions to cleaner energy sources. However, extracting and profiting from these resources will require significant investment in infrastructure, technology, and security. The Afghan government, struggling to assert its authority and provide basic services, faces an uphill battle in attracting foreign investment and expertise to develop the mining sector. The lack of adequate roads, railways, and energy infrastructure poses a major obstacle to transporting these resources to markets. Addressing these challenges will be crucial for Afghanistan to unlock the potential of its natural resources and transform them into a source of prosperity for its people. Afghanistan's long history of conflict, coupled with its porous borders, weak governance, and widespread poverty, has made it a breeding ground for conflict and extremism. The country has served as a sanctuary for a multitude of extremist organizations, including al-Qaeda, the Islamic State Khorasan province, and various other militant groups with regional and global ambitions. The Taliban's return to power in 2021 has raised concerns about Afghanistan once again becoming a haven for terrorist groups. While the Taliban has pledged to prevent Afghan soil from being used to launch attacks against other countries, the presence of al-Qaeda and ISKP elements within Afghanistan poses a continuing threat to regional and international security. The presence of these terrorist groups not only threatens Afghanistan's internal security, but also destabilizes the entire region. the porous borders between Afghanistan and its neighbors, particularly Pakistan and Iran, allow for the movement of militants and weapons, fueling instability and conflict in the region. Addressing the root causes of conflict and extremism in Afghanistan is crucial for both regional and global security. Without sustained efforts to address these underlying factors, Afghanistan risks remaining a hotbed of conflict and extremism for years to come. The human cost of the ongoing conflict in Afghanistan has been immeasurable. Millions of Afghans have been killed, injured, or displaced, their lives shattered by violence, poverty, and instability. The conflict has had a devastating impact on the country's social fabric, tearing apart families, communities, and institutions. The war has left a legacy of trauma and psychological scars on the Afghan people, particularly women and children who have borne the brunt of the violence. Civilian casualties have been a tragic and constant reality, with countless lives lost or forever altered by the conflict. Displacement has uprooted millions, forcing them to flee their homes and seek refuge in uncertain and often dire conditions. The lack of access to basic necessities such as food, water, healthcare, and education has further exacerbated the suffering of ordinary Afghans. The conflict has reversed years of development progress, leaving Afghanistan among the poorest and least developed countries in the world. Investing in the well-being of the Afghan people is not only a humanitarian imperative, but also crucial for achieving lasting peace and stability in the region. The international community must remain engaged and committed to supporting Afghanistan's long road to recovery and peace. The future of Afghanistan remains uncertain, fraught with challenges and opportunities. The Taliban's return to power has ushered in a new era, marked by both hope and apprehension. The Taliban faces a multitude of challenges, including a devastated economy, a humanitarian crisis, internal divisions within their ranks, and the threat of insurgency from groups like ISKP. The country's dependence on foreign aid, which has been significantly reduced since the Taliban takeover, further complicates the economic situation. The Taliban's ability to govern effectively, address the country's myriad problems, and gain international legitimacy will be crucial for Afghanistan's future. The international community's engagement with Afghanistan will also play a pivotal role in shaping the country's trajectory. The Afghan people, who have endured decades of conflict and hardship, deserve a chance at peace, stability, and prosperity. Achieving lasting peace and stability in Afghanistan will require a concerted effort from all stakeholders, based on dialogue, compromise, and a shared commitment to the well-being of the Afghan people. In one scenario, a more inclusive government could emerge, where women and minorities play a significant role in rebuilding the nation. Conversely, if the Taliban fails to address internal divisions and international concerns, Afghanistan could face increased isolation and unrest. Alternatively, grassroots efforts and local governance might pave the way for economic recovery and social cohesion, independent of central authority. Regional dynamics and international diplomacy will also influence Afghanistan's future, potentially leading to new alliances and peace agreements. Ultimately, the resilience and determination of the Afghan people will be the cornerstone of any positive change, as they strive for a brighter future amidst uncertainty. Afghanistan's strategic location and tumultuous history have had a profound impact on global politics, shaping regional and international geopolitics, influencing the fight against terrorism, and highlighting the challenges of nation-building and humanitarian intervention. The country's fate remains deeply intertwined with the interests of various superpowers, as well as the security and stability of the wider region. Afghanistan has been a focal point of the global war on terror, serving as a battleground against al-Qaeda and other extremist groups. The US-led invasion and subsequent war in Afghanistan had far-reaching consequences, reshaping international alliances, military doctrines, and counterterrorism strategies. The rise of ISKP and the Taliban's return to power underscore the continuing threat of terrorism emanating from Afghanistan and the need for sustained international cooperation to address this challenge. The international community's involvement in Afghanistan has also sparked debates about the effectiveness of nation-building efforts, the limits of military intervention, and the responsibilities of intervening powers. The lessons learned from Afghanistan should inform future international interventions and highlight the importance of diplomacy, development, and respect for local contexts in addressing conflict and instability. Afghanistan, throughout its history, has been a pawn in the great game of superpowers, its destiny shaped by external forces vying for control and influence. From the 19th century rivalry between the British and Russian empires, to the Cold War struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union, and now the emerging competition between the US and China, Afghanistan has been caught in the crosshairs of geopolitical interests. Its strategic location, vast natural resources, and potential as a transit route have made it a coveted prize, coveted by empires and superpowers alike. However, this strategic importance has come at a heavy price for the Afghan people, who have endured centuries of conflict, instability, and foreign intervention. The pursuit of strategic interest by external powers has often overshadowed the needs and aspirations of the Afghan people, leaving the country impoverished, war-torn, and yearning for peace. For Afghanistan to break free from the cycle of conflict and become a stable, prosperous, and peaceful nation, it needs genuine partnership, not exploitation, from the international community. Only then can Afghanistan shed its image as a pawn in the great game and chart its own course towards sovereignty and a brighter future. That's all for today, folks. Remember to keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep pushing your limits. Until next time, take care and be happy why superpowers wanted Afghanistan. And finally, I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. Your support and engagement mean the world to us. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content like this.